Good evening. The markets plunged today, and tomorrow morning the Greek president will make a last-ditch attempt to form a government of national unity. But fresh elections seem likely. Across Europe, central bankers and politicians have started talking openly of a Greek exit from the euro. But what are the options on the table and the calculations the players are making? Will it be chaos, more muddle through, or could it actually work for both Greece and Europe? There's nothing we journalists like more for stirring the creative juices than a wacky metaphor. Here's Joe Lynam, a connoisseur of the genre.
You're not alone if you think that the woes of the single currency are a bit like a giant maze from which there appears to be no exit. 3 months ago, after Greece got its second bailout, many people, including the now deposed President Sarkozy, said the crisis was solved. But now we're back very much in it, and this time the only way out seems to be a Greek exit from the Eurozone. There were further talks to form a government in Athens today, as political stalemate polarises the country into pro- or anti-EU bailout factions. While Athens riles, the Greek elite are decamping their wealth out of their homeland and into safe havens like Knightsbridge or Surrey. Soon only the very poor or the very dim will still have their assets based in Greece. It all points to confidence ebbing away, and if that happens, Grexit may come sooner than you think.
But I think it will happen very, very quickly indeed. At some point, there'll be a general acceptance that Greece will run out of money, that the government will run out of euros, that it simply won't have enough money to pay its bills, to pay pensioners, to pay public sector workers. And when that happens, there'll be a run on the system, and very, very quickly, Greece will have to leave the euro.
Of course, no policymaker in Brussels, Paris or Berlin is talking openly of that yet, but you can bet it'll be on the menu privately as Eurozone finance ministers meet this evening in Brussels. Some of their central bankers, notably those from Belgium and Ireland, are already whispering aloud about what a Eurozone minus Greece might look like. One option might be to create two parallel currencies, a softer one that would be used domestically for day-to-day things, and a harder one which would repay Greece's debts denominated in euros.
This is a solution which would certainly have its problems to it, but it would allow the economy to start to be able to grow again. But more to the point, allow it to be able to operate still within the EU and the Eurozone itself, so its obligations aren't torn up immediately. If you tear up all its overseas obligations, the opportunity of Greece ever being able to go back to the markets to raise money again or be able to obtain any form of debt support internationally is close to zero. So this is a mechanism which provides the best of both worlds, but still with some very difficult mechanisms to manage.
Of course, there's a recent example of a small country which decided not to repay its enormous bank debts, despite heavy pressure to do so from the EU. Iceland's banks collapsed under their own weight in 2008, but Reykjavik said that it would simply let them go to the wall. 4 years later, and there's a big exit sign, at least in sight.
Perhaps the most important step is that when the crisis happened, the government decided to prioritize the limited resources it had on the domestic economy. It refused to bail out foreign bankers or foreign creditors and used the money to support the domestic banking system and the domestic economy.
So it let banks go to the wall?
It let banks go to the wall, and it let the foreign creditors take all the losses.
Up to now, the Eurozone thinking has been pretty monochromatic, i.e. you either cut your spending radically and take your medicine, or you get thrown to the money market dogs. But voters in France, Greece and most recently even Germany have said that an alternative third or even fourth way is required. Whether politicians have the creativity or nous to find those routes out of this latest crisis is unclear. While talks continue in Greece, the markets are very much in risk-off mode, which means the rest of Europe, including Britain, waits for some sort of improbable solution short of a smaller Eurozone.
Joe Lynam, well, the elections may have been over a week ago, but Georgios Papconstantinou is still a Greek cabinet minister for PASOK, and we can talk to him now about those efforts to cobble together a government in Athens. Here in London, we have Wolf Pikolea, a Greek specialist from the Eurasia Group, and Megan Green, who specialises in the Eurozone debt crisis at Rubini Global Economics. Minister, first in Athens, just talking about the next 24 hours, Greece has to deliver 436 million euros tomorrow. No authorisation by government to do so. Will it happen?
Well, we'll have to wait for tomorrow to see that. Actually, it's one of the holdout bonds that did not participate in the exchange offer. So a decision needs to be made, and it will be announced tomorrow whether that obligation is honoured or not.
But of course that is one of only in a sense a sidebar to the main event as to whether you can actually form a government. And all the talk today, I gather, there has been talk of a technocrat government. What are the chances of being able to pull that off?
Well, as you know, these elections produced a very fragmented result. Traditionally in Greece, the first party would get around 45% of the vote and the second one would get around 40%. In this case, none of the parties got over 20%. The largest party got 19%. So this is a very different result from what we're used to. And discussions are ongoing at the moment between the leaders of the party under the President of the Republic to see whether we can form a coalition, because it's clear that, you know, it's time for coalition politics in Greece.
But if you, I mean, it's obviously in your interest to make sure that you don't have another election, because the anti-bailout parties are growing their own votes. Syriza, a latest opinion poll, puts them at 20%. Now, that makes them a considerable force. They won't do a deal with you, will they?
I think the interest of not holding another election is perhaps not so much whether the anti-bailout parties would grow or not. It's because Greece is running out of time. We're running out of money, and we need a government as soon as possible. The discussions today did not produce a result. Hopefully, they will be resuming tomorrow, and hopefully we'll manage to get a coalition. The latest proposal on the table is that of a technocratic government, which would have the support of at least 3 parties, possibly 4.
The conundrum here, looking in on Greece, is that Greek people say over and over that they want to stay in the euro, but they actually want to renegotiate the terms of the bailout again and again. These two things are incompatible, aren't they? I mean, it's a dream. It's a nightmare.
Well, indeed, 8 out of 10 Greek people want to stay in the euro consistently. All the polls show that.
But
at the same time,
to take a hit. They're not prepared to. They're not prepared to take the austerity measures they need to take. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
That is right. This is right. I mean, it's the 5th year of a recession. People are hurting. People have seen the salaries cut by up to 40%. Taxes have gone up. 1 in 2 young people is unemployed. Unemployment rate overall is over 20%. So this is a vote of anger. It's a vote of disillusionment. It's a vote of protest. It's not necessarily a vote of rejection, and it's certainly not a vote that believes that the programs of these parties will ever be implemented, because these programs of some of these leftist parties lead us right out of the Eurozone.
Is the Iceland model of default, does that hold any attractions for Greece?
No. We've had the biggest debt restructuring in world history. We shaved 50 percentage points off our national debt. But this was a debt restructuring together with our European partners and the IMF. It was a voluntary debt restructuring, which could happen only because our European partners agreed to recapitalize the Greek banks and help us in this sequence. But we cannot compare a country of 350,000 people, which is what Iceland is, with a Eurozone member of 11 million people that has the same currency as other countries.
Megan, do you think that an exit, however chaotic, muddled, whatever, is inevitable?
I do think an exit is inevitable, and that Greece could finally return to sustainable growth if it were to exit the Eurozone. But choreography is key. It's in absolutely nobody's best interest for Greece to have a disorderly default and exit.
From your point of view, though, you just keep kicking the idea of austerity into the long grass longer and longer, and that in itself becomes a strategy.
Well, it has been a strategy for the last 2 years, and the reality here is that Greece, with the second bailout, has managed to get even more funding than the first bailout. The package needs to be renegotiated, and I believe that from the Troika side, there is a willingness to renegotiate the package on the margin. But for that, we need a workable government, and now in Greece, we don't have one.